My cousin is infertile, so my aunt is demanding that I hand over my firstborn to her daughter because she is more religious than me and says that I can always pop out another if I feel like it. At 24, with just weeks remaining until I welcome my precious baby girl into this world, I find myself caught in an emotional whirlwind. My partner and I have already formed an unbreakable bond with our daughter, our hearts overflowing with love for this tiny life we've created. Yet my aunt and cousin seem determined to shatter our dreams of parenthood. The situation is particularly complex because my aunt has been more than just a relative to my sister and me. After losing our mother at a tender age, she stepped into that maternal void, becoming our guiding light through childhood. We've always maintained a close relationship with both her and my cousin, and I've genuinely tried to be there for my cousin throughout her 5-year struggle with infertility. My aunt's perspective is deeply rooted in her Mormon faith, which she practices with unwavering dedication. Her worldview is shaped by rigid beliefs about morality, values, and what constitutes a proper life. In her mind, a child must be raised in a household steeped in religious tradition, with a financially stable father and a mother whose sole focus is her children's upbringing. She views my household as fundamentally flawed, my partner isn't Christian, and we both pursue demanding careers. In her eyes, these factors will inevitably lead our child down a path of confusion and moral ambiguity. She's convinced that our daughter's emotional and spiritual well-being will be compromised in our secular environment. In contrast, she presents my cousin's situation as ideal, working part-time from home, married to a devout husband, and supposedly better equipped to provide a loving, religiously oriented upbringing. This narrative has driven me to take drastic measures. I've blocked them on all communication platforms and relocated to a new home, keeping my address strictly confidential. My partner and I even opted for a private wedding ceremony to prevent them from interfering with my medical decisions. Of the two, my aunt has transformed into a relentless pursuer. Her tactics have become increasingly aggressive and manipulative. One day, she appeared unannounced at my former apartment, her face masked with artificial sweetness as she attempted to coerce me into meeting her at a cafe near her church. Despite my firm refusal and clear statement that my child was not up for discussion, she persisted, forcing me to seek refuge in my own home for an excruciating half-hour until she finally departed. Her campaign has even expanded to include her church community, who now bombard me with hostile messages and threatening voicemails. My cousin's approach has been more subtle, but perhaps even more disturbing. The shadow of tragedy looms over her. Last year, she endured the heartbreaking loss of her baby girl, a stillbirth at 30 weeks that has left deep emotional scars. Her grief has manifested in troubling ways. Through the grapevine, I've learned that she's been banned from numerous motherhood support groups for harassing vulnerable women, young mothers and widows, attempting to convince them to give up their babies. Her desperation to fix her family has reached a frightening intensity, and she's apparently fixated on my unborn child as the perfect replacement for her lost daughter. Their shared delusion that I'll buckle under the pressures of motherhood and surrender my baby to them is both insulting and terrifying. My aunt's rhetoric is particularly manipulative. She emphasizes our family connection as if it somehow diminishes my right to my own child, casually suggesting that I can just have another later since I'm young and planning to pursue graduate studies. While my cousin has expressed a desire to mend our fractured relationship and return to our former closeness, I've made the difficult decision to maintain complete silence until after my delivery. My primary focus must be protecting my pregnancy from stress, and though I once deeply empathized with her fertility struggles and generally preferred her company to my aunt's, her recent behavior has planted seeds of genuine fear for my safety. The future holds many uncertainties. My partner and I are planning a grand wedding celebration for next year, following our private ceremony, but I'm torn about whether to include my aunt and cousin, or if they'll even be in a position to attend. While I currently enjoy strong support from both sides of our extended family, except for those aligned with my aunt and cousin, I can't help but wonder if this solidarity will endure through the coming year, or how these relationships might evolve after my baby's arrival. The emotional toll of avoiding family gatherings where they might be present weighs heavily on my heart. I don't want to live in perpetual exile from my family's joyous occasions, but I'm caught in an impossible situation. As my due date approaches, the uncertainty of what lies ahead in my relationship with my aunt and cousin looms like a dark cloud over what should be the happiest time of my life. Update: 3 days later. In a desperate attempt to find resolution, we reached out to the local church leader who holds spiritual authority over my aunt and cousin. Our initial conversation left me with mixed emotions. At first, he seemed to dismiss our concerns as mere family squabbles, steering us toward counseling services rather than addressing the gravity of the situation. We persisted, carefully explaining the disturbing reality. My cousin, still wrestling with the trauma of her baby's death, had constructed a fantasy around adopting my child. My aunt, rather than helping her daughter face reality, was enabling and escalating these dangerous delusions, creating an environment of harassment and fear around what should be a joyful time in my life. The church leader's response shifted slightly as he absorbed our story. He acknowledged my position and my cousin's struggles with infertility, promising to speak with them both to gather their perspectives. When I spoke with him again today, his approach revealed the delicate political balance he was trying to maintain within his congregation. He informed me that my aunt and cousin had expressed concern about my withdrawal from family communication and my relocation. The irony of their worry about my disappearance when they had effectively driven me into hiding was not lost on me. When pressed for details about their conversation, he revealed that my cousin had begun speaking with a church therapist and was exploring adoption options, as her IVF treatments showed little promise due to her condition. I felt compelled to emphasize, yet again, that my baby was not and would never be available for adoption. His response was to retreat into the safer territory of personal inquiries about my well-being, before once more pushing for a reconciliation meeting and suggesting counseling services. When I expressed my discomfort with such a meeting, he urged me to at least call my cousin, adding that he would meet with my aunt on Sunday since I was too scared to handle it myself, a characterization that both frustrated and concerned me. The conversation ended there, leaving me with a growing sense of unease about his ability or willingness to truly address the situation. His response seemed more focused on maintaining church harmony than protecting my family from harassment. Edit. The more I reflect on his response, the more dissatisfied I become. While he claims to understand my concerns, his actions suggest otherwise. The pressure he's applying for reconciliation feels like a continuation of the same manipulation I've been trying to escape. My partner and I had hoped his religious authority might help rein in my aunt and cousin's behavior, but now I'm questioning whether involving him has only added another layer of complexity to our situation. I'll wait to see what comes of his next call, but I'm already considering alternative approaches to make him take my concerns more seriously. Edit to clarify. I've maintained strict boundaries throughout this process. No personal information was shared with the church leader, and I have absolutely no intention of meeting my aunt and cousin in person. We're working with legal professionals to protect ourselves, and I should mention that we don't reside in Utah, which adds another layer of complexity to the religious dynamics at play. Second update, 1 week later. The situation with the church leader has reached its inevitable conclusion. In our final conversation, he essentially admitted his limitations, stating that there was little he could do within his official capacity beyond offering counseling services. The facade of authority and influence had finally crumbled. When I inquired about his meeting with my aunt, his response was telling. The conversation had apparently centered on my cousin's healing journey rather than addressing the harassment and boundary violations. He mentioned, almost casually, that my cousin was grieving the loss of communication with my sister and me, as if our withdrawal was the primary issue rather than their threatening behavior. My attempt to redirect the conversation to the real concern, my cousin's dangerous fixation on claiming my baby as a replacement for her loss, and the threat this posed to my family's safety, seemed to fall on increasingly disinterested ears. His attention noticeably waned as I spoke, leading him to offer a dismissive suggestion to do whatever I feel is best for my family while adding the manipulative caveat to consider my cousin's grief and seek family counseling services. Recognizing the futility of further engagement, my partner and I sent a final email to the church leader, copying our lawyer to establish a clear record of the communications end. Then, after careful consideration, I took a bold step. I unblocked my cousin to send her one last message. The message was clear and unequivocal. My partner and I are keeping our baby, and this is not a topic open for discussion or negotiation. I encouraged her to seek professional therapy if she hasn't already, and explicitly stated that neither she, her husband, nor my aunt would have any role in my child's life. Her silence in response speaks volumes, but regardless of what she might say, our relationship has been irreparably altered. The innocent trust we once shared has been shattered by her actions, and she will have no place in my child's story. Third update, 5 months later. Life has a way of moving forward, even in the aftermath of family trauma. As I write this final update, I find myself in a completely different chapter of life. At 25, I'm now the mother of an adorable 4-month-old baby girl who fills our days with joy and wonder. The past few months have been a whirlwind of midnight feedings, first smiles, and the countless tiny moments that make parenthood such a precious journey. Our morning walks together have become my favorite part of the day, and watching her grow and develop new skills almost daily leaves me in awe. As I prepare to return to the workforce, juggling job applications with baby care, I can't help but reflect on how far we've come since those turbulent days of my pregnancy. The silence from my cousin and aunt stretched on for months, a blessed respite that allowed us to focus on building our new life together. However, the peace was eventually broken. In August, my aunt managed to reach me through a new phone number. Her initial inquiry about my well-being and the baby seemed genuine enough, though tinged with the same underlying agenda that had caused so much strife before. Our conversation revealed that my cousin's pursuit of motherhood had taken new directions. They were attempting to adopt through church connections, though with limited success. When I inquired about proper adoption agencies, my aunt's response unveiled a disturbing new layer to the situation. She alluded to potential issues with my cousin's husband's past, a revelation that raised more questions than it answered. The conversation then took an unsettling turn as she launched into a concerning monologue about declining white birth rates and voluntary childlessness in society. True to form, she couldn't resist asking if I still wanted my baby, as if my daughter were a possession I might tire of. When I reaffirmed my commitment to motherhood, she pivoted to emphasizing my cousin's advancing age, though she's only in her early 30s, and her empty nest. Her attempts to negotiate some level of involvement in my daughter's life were met with firm rejection, given their past behavior and my lingering fears about my cousin's maternal delusions. Through my sister, who remains my window into the family dynamics, I've learned that my cousin's mental health has shown some improvement from its lowest point, though she still struggles with periods of deep depression and emptiness. She and her husband have shifted their focus to seeking IVF treatment abroad, clinging to hopes of a miracle as their domestic options dwindle. While she apparently still views my baby as something she lost, she's wrapped this perception in religious terminology, speaking of God's plan and seeking forgiveness for past transgressions. As Thanksgiving approaches, we've made the decision to skip celebrations with my side of the family, a choice that, while difficult, feels necessary for our peace of mind. My focus now is on the future. Returning to work after the holidays, implementing carefully planned childcare arrangements with extra security measures, and continuing to build the life we've chosen for ourselves. The journey has been challenging, but it's strengthened my resolve and clarified my priorities. While the family bonds have been strained, perhaps irreparably, the bonds within our little family unit have only grown stronger. Every smile, every giggle from my daughter confirms that we made the right choice in standing our ground and protecting our family's boundaries. To everyone who has supported us through this ordeal, thank you. Your encouragement and validation helped us maintain our resolve during the darkest moments of this family crisis. As we move forward, we do so with hope, determination, and the joy of watching our daughter thrive in the loving, secure environment we've created for her.